Hello and welcome to Impact the Borough, a podcast from the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. I'm Brent Christensen, the President and CEO of the Chamber. Each week we'll highlight what we're doing to start and grow businesses, create quality jobs, and develop our workforce. We'll also check in with our community partners to share inspiring stories and important information from across our community. This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Impact the Borough podcast. My name is Jen Hensel, and I'm the Assistant Director at Launch Greensboro, where we accelerate growth for entrepreneurs starting businesses in the Greensboro Triad area by providing education, mentoring, and access to capital. We offer a variety of free programs throughout the year, and today we are going to talk to 2 entrepreneurs who went through one of our most celebrated programs, LaunchLab Growth. So let me tell you a little bit about how we operate. We offer Launch and Learns monthly, business boot camps 2 to 3 times a year, a huge pitch competition and networking event called Capital Connects each March. And twice a year, we host a mini accelerator called LaunchLab 101, which is a 5-week session that covers business fundamentals that every entrepreneur needs to consider before or during their launch. And then we also twice a year host a traditional accelerator that is 14 weeks, open to companies that are serving customers, making pivots, and are really truly focused on growth. That is called LaunchLab Growth, what we're going to be talking about today. And we have Natalie Miller of the historic Magnolia House and Jackson Hoggard of Double Hung Historic Window Restoration joining us today to talk about their companies and their experience in our program. So welcome, Natalie and Jackson.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yep, super excited for you to get to talk a little bit about your businesses. So let's just start there. Tell us, Natalie, why don't you jump in and tell us about the historic Magnolia House?
Sure. So the historic Magnolia House is a historic hotel where African Americans stayed during the Jim Crow era. We were listed in 6 editions of the Green Book, which essentially was the Yellow Pages for African American travelers during the era of segregation. Today, we are opened as a private event venue. We do have the historic museum. Fall of 2021, we will be opening the Green Book Hotel, and we do have the restaurant/dining service offering as well.
Wonderful. And Jackson?
So we're Double Hung Historic Window Restoration. My father founded the company about 24 years ago, and we offer a different solution to treating your old home's windows. We basically preserve the original fabric as much as possible, and make sure that it can go back and function like it did 100 years ago. One thing people don't know about us is we also work and a majority of our revenue comes from commercial projects that are government funded or national parks funded. So we go all over the place and help save places, much like the historic Magnolia House. So that's kind of right up our alley, and we love to go and help lend our expertise and help save windows, among other things. We do doors, shutters, columns, pretty much any wood element, and help create jobs and save old things.
I love it. I love having the 2 of you here today because I think the connection with historic preservation is just so cool and is so deep here in Greensboro. So the fact that both of your companies are here, and I know that you've talked a little bit about working together already. So love to see that happen among our entrepreneurs. So tell us a little bit about your LaunchLab experience. Like I mentioned to the listeners, it's a 14-week program. Natalie, you were in the program last fall, so fall of 2020. And Jackson, you're in the program now. So I thought it would be really fun to talk about, kind of put you guys in this juxtaposition of having been all the way through the program and currently in the program and just what some of those experiences are like. So Natalie, why don't you give us a rundown of the 14 weeks we spent together last fall?
Oh gosh. So So our class took place during, of course, the pandemic. So I like to call us the pixelated family, of course, because we were this virtual class. And I'll tell you, going into it and being virtual, there was a different expectation I had going into it because it was virtual than coming out of it, which was a pleasant surprise. Because I didn't anticipate, I think, the closeness with the other students or other businesses, because we weren't in person, so we didn't have that element of collaboration and bonding. But if I correlated it to the, our business, the Magnolia House, I would really say that it really was this safe space for entrepreneurs in the scary world of running a business, and learning how to do that and just being vulnerable and opening up to thinking about doing things differently, and being open to learning new things so that you can truly excel and grow your business. Whether that's through partnership, whether that's through just your business model. I'll also say that for us, the mentorship that was provided. So for entrepreneurs, there's different personalities that makes up an entrepreneur. Uh, Natalie's personality, she's a driver. And so having to just really be humble and allow Jen and Luann to help guide the mentors and assign the mentors that they felt would be best needed for the historic Magnolia House made a world of difference. Because again, just being receptive to learning and to listening and to different perspectives. Um, we excelled in so many different ways. We created a whole new business model, coming out of this class that I don't think that I would have thought about, not anytime soon anyway. So it was just a phenomenal experience, for us, for sure.
That's awesome. And as you're talking, I see Jackson nodding. So Jackson, tell us a little bit about your experience. You're about halfway through the program right now.
So I think Natalie hit it on the head as far as the safe space it creates for soundboarding your ideas. As an entrepreneur, you get crazy ideas. Sometimes you get a little bit distracted. And so putting those ideas out there and then kind of getting reeled back on course of what the goals you set coming into the program is really something that it helps steer you in the right direction. And it's just been really good to hear, be able to speak and have other people's opinions and people share freely and say, are you thinking about this? Are you have you asked this question? Are you sure you want to pivot that direction? It really helps for me to have a space where I can do that. And I'm not doing that with my employees, because if I do that with my employees, it can kind of get them a little overwhelmed. So having that safe space to be able to talk about ideas and really just freewheel is awesome. And then keeping it within the structure of the program, it helps you go through each facet of the business so you can kind of explore different segments. And I think we're moving through to the operations phase right now. I just recently got my mentor assigned as well, who I'm very excited about. I think it's been a great pairing, and he's all on board with helping to push the vision that I'm trying to grow, which is grow our company nationwide, which is kind of terrifying from an entrepreneur standpoint. So we've been, my father was the original entrepreneur 24 years ago. He built a great business, and now it's kind of on my shoulders to take it to the next level. How can I take it so that our service can be held nationwide? And having, people like Jen and Luann and my mentor and the rest of the team in the cohort to help, keep me on track and say, no, that's not a bad idea, or if that is a bad idea, it's great because it helps me stay grounded, and make sure I'm focusing where I need to focus.
Yeah, it's good to hear both of those things. And I just want to highlight for our listeners who aren't as familiar with the program, there's some key benefits to the LaunchLab Growth Accelerator. And Natalie, I know that you utilized a lot of them. Jackson, I know, you are currently, but we hire interns, really high quality local interns, to perform projects for the entrepreneurs in the program. So as you're going through the education sessions, which happen on a weekly basis, led by local experts, you can lean into the interns to help you execute on some of that learning, help you produce some of the work that you might not have the time or expertise to do. Let's say it's social media, or you don't have time to revamp your website, or any number of things. Research is a huge component of what our interns do. We've heard a lot from both of you about the mentors. That is a major factor. And we see true game-changing relationships built through those partnerships. But also, just the network. You both talk about the cohort and that safe space that you create with other similar stage entrepreneurs who oftentimes you can feel kind of alone. Or Jackson, if you're in a leadership role, it's not a place from that CEO perspective that you can share your thoughts or your fears without concerning everyone around you. But in our program with other entrepreneurs, you can say, you know what, I had a bad day and I don't know what to do. And you can have 14 people surround you and say, we know, we've been there. This is what we did. This is what you could brainstorm about. And just, even if it's simply revamping your spirits, but also, as Natalie said, talking about a new business model or a new opportunity you hadn't considered. And we spend a lot of time on communication, right? We spend a ton of time helping you guys as CEOs. We talk so much about how communication is a critical factor. As the leader of your organization, you must be able to communicate well about your business to bring along the rest of the public and your team. But also, and Natalie, I want to ask you about Jackson. I don't think you're familiar with this piece yet because it's post-program. You have to graduate from the program and hit all the requirements to receive this benefit. But at the end of the program, we also hire local vendors to do kind of a little bit bigger, longer term projects for the entrepreneurs. So Natalie, you were paired up with Vivid Interiors. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with that right now?
Oh, you're talking about the match made in heaven? That? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
No, oh man. So I will tell you, so we've been partnered actually with two really great vendors. So Vivid Interiors, as well as Patricia Schuler, who's a local videographer. And so what we're doing essentially, so as a part of us opening up our Green Book Hotel in the fall of 2021, we've partnered with Vivid Interiors in terms of the design. And so it's been pretty special because it is truly a remake of history. Because with everything that we do at the historic Magnolia House, it's very intentional, very true to what the historic Magnolia House represented back in 1949 and the 50s and the 60s. And so when we open up the Green Book Hotel, they're walking into, as if James Baldwin did, or as if Sam Cooke did. And so that experience, that design, what the house looks like, feels like, how the guests are treated, how they're fed, what they're doing, all of that plays a key part. And so with Vivid Interiors, partnering with them to help create that ambiance and that design. And so how that has grown, actually, it's grown into this community, I guess I could say, of boss divas, I guess. But now we're connected, right? We've connected with so many other small business women owners, right? And whether it's through branding and marketing, through the furniture market industry. I mean, it's just opened the doors and connected and just networked in so many ways. And so when those for Launch Greensboro, Jackson, when you do graduate from that, the partnerships, and I think, Jen, when you brought it to my attention and offered it, I think, initially I was like, Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. That's interesting. Like I wouldn't have pegged that a partnership. But just be receptive to it and just kind of go with it. Just because, it's gonna blossom into something you just would not have expected. And so yeah, Jen, Luann, Launch Greensboro, thank you.
Yeah. No, that's sweet and it's so inspiring. Like I get goosebumps when I hear you talk about it because it creates like just this work, this body of work of its own and these partnerships that grow and flourish. And one of the things that for our listeners to know, both of those local vendors who are complete experts and showstoppers in their field, Patricia Schuler with videography and Vivid Interiors with interior design, both of those women-owned businesses came through our program as well. So we are now, you know, working to create and model a circular economy among entrepreneurs to rely on local expertise, to rely on local vendors, to expand your network and hire from within our own community so that we can build that customer base and we can be really strong together. So yeah, I love the story of that partnership and I can't wait to see how it all comes together when that video gets shot. So tell me a little bit about what brought you both to Greensboro. Now, you're both originally from Greensboro, grew up here, moved away. Tell us what that moving away and then the moving back catalyst was. Jackson, you want to tell us a little bit?
Yeah. So yeah, born and raised here. I moved away when I was about 20. Went to Wilmington, went to school, uh, worked in the kitchen for a couple years. Thought I wanted to do the culinary arts program or wanted to get into music, and had always known that, my dad's had the business since I was real young. And I was like, oh, maybe I want to one day work for it, but it kind of felt, it wasn't really where my passion was. And so I took a construction management class, and then ended up getting a degree in construction management, fell in love with it, and ended up traveling around the Southeast building some buildings, and actually built, a performing arts center, which so kind of stayed in the music realm, and really started to see a similarity with music in construction, kind of being a conductor of job sites, and got on with some really great companies. They moved me around and then ultimately brought me back to Charlotte, where I was about 10 months ago, was finishing up a large hotel, 23-story hotel, where I was concrete superintendent. So I built a structure, which was a dream of mine. And then, started looking, working really long weeks. I was like working 70-hour weeks. And I was like, man, I'm working for a great company. I love it, but I could be working with my dad and working, for myself one day. That's right around when my dad called and said, if you're going to come help, now's the time, and I looked at it and said, well, there's no better time to innovate or grow a business in my mind than during a pandemic, because can only really go up from here, I think. So my wife and I moved back from Charlotte about 9 months ago, bought our first house, and it's been great. So family called me back, and boy, am I glad I'm here. I was fortunate to live in a lot of different cities throughout the Southeast, including Orlando, Florida, Durham, Wilmington, brief stint in Savannah, Jacksonville, Florida, and most recently Charlotte for 4 years. So I've seen a lot of other cities go through great growth spurts, and seen, been on the forefront of that as building, the building industry pushes these new buildings in there. And I can't say that I've been more excited to be in the city than in Greensboro. Out of all those places, I feel like there's a really big push for community-driven growth here in Greensboro, and it's more so than any city I've lived in. And I think there's a lot of great things coming, and I hope to help be a catalyst for that change in correct kind of growth in the community. So
That's great. And Natalie, what about you?
Oh man, first let me say, Jackson, I think we've been on each other's heels like for the last few years.
that's how it works,
Man.
synergy. Yeah.
So, oh gosh. So, um, for us, we have, funny story, our Wi-Fi for a while. We actually labeled it the Southeastern Nomad Family. I kid you not, because we had moved all over the place. And so some of the places we lived, so Charlotte, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Nashville, and other places. And so born and raised here, born and raised in the same neighborhood as the historic Magnolia House, raised in the same house beside my dad's childhood home, and went to college here, graduated from A&T, and actually I came out at North Carolina A&T State University out of their nursing school program. And so my old corporate hat was in ER nursing and moved over into healthcare IT. And then literally in 24 hours, I'm now have this entrepreneurship, small business owner, nonprofit management, right? So a completely different hat. So one of the things that I tell you I'm really excited about when it came back to time to come home is having all of those different experiences and being able to experience the different cultures and the different ways in which those cities do things. And they were metropolis areas. And so, there was this urbanism to it. And, coming back to Greensboro and really on the cusp of, Greensboro is at a point where we're making some really big moves. Like you can just see it, you can just feel it. And so being able to take all of those things that I've learned, and thinking about that, when I'm with the team and we're getting this historic Magnolia house up and running the business, you're thinking about it from the environment, from an economic development, from a cultural catalyst standpoint. As you're seeing things around you, whether it's the art side of Greensboro, even the Boomerang Project. I was so excited about that. I was really excited about that because that actually was a big project that I was involved in Atlanta, more geared towards women in STEAM. But it was, so it all feels very familiar, and super proud to just be a part of it. So yeah.
No, I love it. I love hearing about different experiences, in different cities and how that transforms you as an individual. I'm also not from here. I'm from Colorado and have been in Greensboro for 4 years. But so I think it's really interesting to think about your previous career experiences. As you've taken on this new role, how have those experiences, either in other cities or in other career fields, really played into your successes?
In my professional career, whether it was in the kitchen or as I've come up through the construction world, has just been a completely fast-paced environment. I love working on high-performing teams. I've been very fortunate to work with some high-performing teams for the last 10 years, and seeing how other companies develop and inspire and cultivate those teams and create a workspace for them to be able to excel is something that I was very fortunate, especially in my last employer, DPR Construction. They're just a national builder. They're all about making sure it's a great space for high-performing teams and those team members to excel, not only in the workspace, but in life. And so seeing how a large-scale company does that across the country and being able to learn how they've done it from a small business standpoint, where they were a small business 25 years ago, now they're one of the biggest builders in the world, understanding their growth path and being able to live that experience from an employee standpoint has really positioned me to come in and kind of help us position ourselves for that growth and develop that culture and say, lead from previous examples and create that space for my employees to really freely share things, freely, contribute and not just feel like they're showing up to a workplace where they just clock in and clock out, which in the construction trade world, and it's something that is all too common. It's, people come in, they're treated like drones, and I've been fortunate to work for some employers that understand that that's not how you get productivity. That's not how you get, a sustainable environment as an employer. And I hope to, that was already a culture that was kind of built here at Double Hung, and I hope to really continue to grow that. And I've been fortunate that my previous experience leading teams, whether it's from 10 people on the job site up to probably 250 people on the job site, I've been fortunate to do that. And so with the 38 people we've got, it doesn't seem like a really hard task given the previous experience I've been fortunate to have.
What about you, Natalie? I love your
Yeah.
background. I think your background is fascinating, and I personally see so many gems that you are bringing forward that I don't even know if you see them or realize them. So tell us a little bit about your background.
So, so when I graduated out of nursing school, I it was time for me to start kind of taking a look at what made sense in terms of long term, right? Because for me, being at the bedside clinically, while I loved it, loved the ER, miss it a lot. But long term, that wasn't necessarily something I was going to pursue. And so actually, I actually ended up in healthcare IT by default, way of an IT project that I'd been asked to volunteer on at work. And from there, I just Googled, literally at the time, that was a great time for a mentor. But literally Googled, healthcare IT and where does a nurse fit into that? And so it opened up this whole world, and just immersed myself in it full time and took it on. And I spent, over 12 years doing digital transformation and change management work. And so how that translates into, entrepreneurship today, uh, one of what I'm surprised by in the healthcare space, I did a lot of work when it comes to digital and change management for the patient experience. And when it comes to patient experience, which of course I admire, and I look at Cone Health and their patient experience department quite a bit. But when it comes to patient experience in healthcare, one of the key things that you have to hone in on is focusing on those little things, because that's what the patient, really, really pays attention to. And that's the one most impacting thing when it comes to their healthcare outcomes. And so being able to take that and translate that into the hospitality industry, I mean, it's little things from when the customer comes and walks through the door to be seated to have a meal at the table and the historic Magnolia House. When you greet them pre-COVID, you look at them in the eye and then you touch their shoulder, right? Like, it's little things like that that you take from learning in your professional career. And things such as, of course, the innovation of technology and embracing that helped a lot with COVID, and being able to kind of transition into the technology world a little seamless for us. And then, when it comes to the world of innovation, which I've spent a lot of time in professionally, um, it's really been helpful in terms of leading the team. Leading the team for us. And Jackson, you really hit on it really nicely around, enabling those high productive teams and carrying that over into, the entrepreneurship side, and creating that space of big thinking and being this national brand. And so, for me to be able to lead that team and allow them to be able to have that space to not think traditionally, to be able to think outside of the box. A lot of that's contributed to, our shoebox program and how we've stood that up and what that looks like going forward and things like that. So that's kind of how that's translated for us.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful, and I want to talk a little bit more about that kind of innovation space, because both of you are bringing that to the table of a longer standing family owned business. So you're taking something that was kind of pre-existing and you're putting your own spin on it that is entrepreneurial, right? A new business model, new process, staff, public perception. Like, how are you modernizing it and so I want to hear from both of you on like, how are you maneuvering that process of being innovative and entrepreneurial in a pre-existing place? Because I think that for a lot of people, when they think about entrepreneurship, they think of it's from the starting from the ground up, that entrepreneurship is starting from nothing and building something. But entrepreneurship is really also about a mindset. It's about innovation. It's about being willing to know your customer and your market and pivot to serve and solve problems in the right way for that period of time, right? So that is what innovation is. So tell us a little bit about how you're maneuvering that process. You know, Jackson, you have staff. How was it coming back and taking over and making some changes?
It was eye-opening. The first thing I noticed was I had a lot of really great people working with us. And we had some operational, I guess, dysfunction where we were, in my opinion, we weren't focused. We were kind of discombobulated, and I probably contributed to some of that when I first came in, trying to kind of get a hold on the reins. But the one thing that was resounding was we had great people, and like I said, like I tell people, we had great clay to mold with. And so fixing some of the operational changes and pivoting direction, which in our case was, we have a lot of residential clients, a ton of them, and they're sitting at home, so they want a lot of, they want their windows open. But the core part of our business that really drives our revenue is commercial work. It's large projects, and that's what we really, really excel at. We were spending a lot of our resources trying to capture all the residential projects, but we were letting some of the bigger stuff slip. And from a risk standpoint, we had firm contracts, dates, and there's a lot more risk over here. So taking the great people we had and kind of changing course a little bit and saying we need to be focused over here in the commercial aspect, because that's how we can better serve our residential clients. By getting the train stable, getting us rolling, and getting our revenue protected over here, we can then afford to hire and train and go after more of the residential clients that are waiting for us to be served. And so, that's one thing that's kind of helped through the LaunchLab program and helping me to understand our core target markets and how I can better serve them. I made a clear distinction that we have to start separating our business and move to focus on commercial. And we don't want to let the residential clients go the wayward, because that's who's built our reputation. That's who we've served, and that's who's helped us through the downturns. And we can't let that go. But to better serve them in the long term, we've got to get some more systematic, I guess, focus. And so I've been very fortunate that I've had a lot of great leaders that have emerged within the company. I've tried to create that safe space and say, no idea is a dumb idea, no question's a dumb question. I want people making mistakes. I don't want you to feel like, just because we messed up that, you're going to get reprimanded. I want people to mess up, because that's how you learn to innovate. Trying things a new way, trying to go out on a limb, say, I'm going to try it this way. That's, we might fail. We might have lost a little bit of money, but we've learned a great lesson. So creating that in the organization with the help of my dad and a lot of our management team, it's 8 months in, I've seen a big change as far as how people show up every day and continue to show up. And it's really exciting because now that we've got that foundation, that clay started to kind of harden down here, we can keep building on it. And that's how we're going to really spring to what I hope is a national presence, because our base is going to be so good that we can, at that point, go attract and inspire more talent to join our mission, which I recently announced is to save 1 million windows. So it sounds lofty, but we're going to do it.
I love it. Jackson, you're amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it.
You are too, Natalie. I tell you, walking into your space last week would just reinvigorated me. It was like, I love what you got going on here, and just can't wait to come back many more times.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So in terms of the family business, and, bringing my dad. So my dad bought the home from the Grimbook Hotel owners, the Gist family, in 95. And he bought it being a child in the neighborhood, growing up around the home, the engagement, the interaction with the home. So this project for him, also him being a natural historian, It was this labor of love for him. It was a passion project for him. He is one of the most brilliant men, the best visionaries. I mean, just walking into the space, seeing the space just kind of speaks to all of that. And so for, for me to come in and take on this project from dad, and really carrying on his vision and getting us to complete the restoration, and then growing this brand to just like you, Jackson. Yes, we are local, but to a national brand. It was, what I would say, it took some finesse. It really did. When you have a passion project, and, when you have, the way of doing business, historically, it's a little different than the way of doing business modern day. And so, you have to be very respectful, and you have to be, very smart about how you do things, so that, you know, just like any entrepreneur, you're in the business of making money, right? And there's a very high risk when it comes to starting a business, and how you start that business. It makes a big deal in terms of the success of that business and the long term of that business. And so sometimes it's having, those difficult conversations, while still being able to carry on the lessons learned from the parent, and being able to make sure that, you're continuing to celebrate all of the work that they've done. When it comes to, one of the things that I walked into when I took on the business that's a little different, Jackson, is, we didn't have a team, of employees. So that scenario is a little bit different, and I applaud you for the way that you handled that. That speaks a lot to your leadership, and I really, really do applaud you for that. And I know your dad and your parents are super proud.
Thank you.
Mhm. But I think for me, again, the biggest element was just figuring out kind of what that secret sauce is, and merging the historical traditional business way concepts versus modern day business concepts, and running a business, standing a business, and creating the successful business. Establishing secure, really solid, strong business relationships. That was an element that was extremely critical, in what we do today. In fact, we've taken a little longer, probably getting ourselves off the ground, for just because it was very important to me. I really hadn't adulted here. I've only been here for almost 3 years. So I don't have that network, right? And I've got to start a business, and I've got, the community's got to be a part of this. So taking a year and establishing those relationships, understanding the layout of the land, the good and the bad, I mean, all of that was really important. And so, taking that time to do that, and getting to know some really great people, and some really great partnerships, that's allowed us to be able to establish our national reputation that we have. We've got folks coming from Alaska to see us, and all over the place. And so, that in turn has created our holistic model, our holistic approach to historic preservation. That is a requirement for any work that we do. So that probably was the biggest element for us, Jen.
I love it. And I don't know if the listeners are feeling this, but I just want to set up a lunch between the two dads and then just sit back and listen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that would be a great lunch. Maybe we do that as a follow up. But if I could to tie into the such important work that Natalie's doing in preserving that space, and that your father did, it is, for me, growing up in Greensboro, not knowing about the Magnolia House and coming from, I've always known about A&T and been at college, but stuff like the story that you're telling with the Magnolia House is just such a powerful testament to the beauty and the underbelly of Greensboro, when the not so beautiful things of Greensboro. And what you're doing, bringing the awareness and preserving that and telling that story of what the Magnolia House was and pushing that forward on a national scale is incredibly, incredibly important work, because this, in my opinion, every kid coming up in Greensboro should know the importance of what is a Green Book house? Why did the Green Book exist? And
Right.
the fact that I, growing up in Greensboro, didn't know that, and I haven't learned that is something that we have to change in our own community. In my opinion, I think the awareness that you're going to bring, and that brand is very powerful, and it's very, very important work. And I applaud you for it, and your father for being a visionary and saying, "I've got something special here. We've got it." That labor of love is something that can do a lot of really great things and push a lot of really great change. So, and it's inspired me. Walking in there the other day, I literally, I was like, "This is amazing. How have I never known about this before?" And I'm going to champion it, because not only is it great food, it's just a great place. So
Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the work we're doing together for sure. And it's already grown more than one dose, so we need to get together too.
I'm here for it. We're here to help.
Yes, well, there could not be a better way to end. That was beautiful. I love watching connections happen. I love creating them. As Natalie's mentioned, sometimes I'm behind the scenes pulling some strings and making some things happen, because I just know if this person could just meet this person, and if this idea got shared with that idea, it's going to be magic. And so I love it. So Natalie, will you real quick just wrap up with telling us about any kind of big announcements or anything coming out of the business that we should know about?
Sure. So a couple things. Number one, I did mention earlier, so we do have our grand opening of the Magnolia House Hotel opening the fall of this year. We're very much looking forward to that. We've got a fundraiser that's coming that May 14th through the 15th. That'll be publishing this week, and looking forward to the community in partnership with Vivid Interiors. Looking forward to the community coming to see the future of the history of the space. We also are Shoebox Lunch and Learns. So we are working with the Guilford County Schools. We are a vendor, and we have a committee going to do more Shoebox Lunch and Learns with the various schools, and have expanded that to a 60-mile radius outside of Greensboro, just so we can continue to touch as many kids as possible. So feel free, for the parents and for everyone that, if you want to sponsor a class, sponsor a school, if you want to get involved, feel free to do so. I think there's just tons of opportunity to get involved with the Historic Magnolia House's work, and us just replicating history and getting it back out there.
That's awesome. All right, May 14th and 15th. I'm going to be there. And so for a quick upcoming piece for Jackson, I'm just going to drop a hint for everyone to join us, Launch Greensboro, on May 24th for Jackson's Cohorts Demo Day. So it will be virtual. We have a platform that we are loving. So there will be a business expo where you can meet all the companies that are in the cohort, as well as some of our ecosystem partners and some of the experts that come in and teach, volunteer to teach entrepreneurs time after time. You'll hear pitches from Jackson as well as the other 11 members of his cohort, and then there will be one-on-one networking. So you can find that and register for that at bit.ly/Demo Day Spring 2021. We'll make sure to have that in the show notes. So May 24th, you can see Jackson's pitch. I'm really excited for him to be out there. So many people do know about the business, but what Jackson is bringing, kind of, I'll just drop a teaser of what he is looking at doing in the innovating construction field, really innovating in the historic preservation field with technology and just new components. I'm just really excited for everyone to hear that. So May 24th from 5:15 to 7, it'll be virtual. Drop in here, Jackson. And I think that's it. Thank you, Natalie and Jackson, for being with us today. You two are phenomenal human beings. I'm grateful to know you. I'm grateful that you found us at Launch Greensboro and spent time with us and continue to stay in our universe. For the listeners, you can follow Launch Greensboro and all of our work on social media. Of course, we're on all the things. We're on Twitter and Instagram at LaunchGSO. We're on LinkedIn at Launch Greensboro and on Facebook at Greensboro Entrepreneur. So Natalie and Jackson, thank you again so much. And have a great day, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen.
This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube thanks to our video sponsor, North State. Make sure to subscribe so you'll get new episodes delivered to your device each week. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at GSO Chamber. See you next time.